Okay. Let's do some SAS. You guys into some SAS? Okay, let's do that. We're going to do SAS several times throughout the day. So you can sit back and watch, or you can play along. Your choice. So again, I tried to have this summary. So this is what we did at the end of class last time. So I'm going to go over part of this really quickly, and then I'll go into part of it in more detail, the part we didn't get to. All right, so in SAS Enterprise Guide, so we're going to open up some data. So I always go through the file path just because I like having control over where I do things. So file, open data. If you go to file, open, and you go to project, you're not going to be able to find the data. So just exit out, go back, file, open, data. So this is a lot of stuff, and this is like years and years of accumulation of data. So what I'm trying to do right now is for your assignments, I've actually created an assignments folder at the very top. Okay. So the coaches data sets here, the food industry data sets here, the median household, and the shoppers. The stuff you need for assignment 2 should be right here, nice and easy for you. For us, we're going to do apartments. There it is. So apartments from chapter 3. So we're just going to go back and do the same data set. So double click on that. So right now it's an Excel file. Okay. As an Excel file, we're going to click next. We only have one worksheet called apartments, so we're going to click next. And there's only one variable, so this is a nice, easy yes.
Can you go back a little bit?
File, open, data, apartments. Oh, wait. I see what the problem is. Sorry, I've been using mine, so it goes to the place where I like to keep things. Starting from the very beginning, you would click servers. Go to file, open, data, servers, SAS app, that's the only thing you can click on.
It's too fast.
Right. This may be the follow along part, not or the watch and see, not the follow along part then. Okay. So servers, SAS app, files, and all of our data is going to be on our D drive. Bunch of stuff. You want the 5503 with my name attached. And then inside that folder, you want the shared data sets, the ISYS 5503 shared data sets. This is going to be the place you're going to come all the time for the data. And now you want to find the apartments data set. Okay. So I've got my apartments. Oh, since I did that, it's mad at me. Sorry. So again, you're going to specify your data. So we've got the right data. We've got the apartments worksheet. So we're going to click next, next. We've only got one variable. But here, and I'm going to talk about this again later, this is the place you can make data better, right? So if I'm importing a number, I know rent's a number, so I make sure it's a number. If I'm importing a string, a character variable, I make sure it says character. If it's a date, if it's a time, you want to make sure that when you upload something from an Excel sheet into a SAS data set, this is the best time to make the data format the way you want the data format. Okay? You can change it later, but it is a pain. So if you're importing something from Excel into SAS, take the time to actually look through this and don't just click next, next, next. Okay? We'll see that again when I get another data set. So now I have this data set, just a whole bunch of rents, right? The apartments. So I have 70 apartments, we have the rent. If I go back to my process flow, so something I want to point out to you, we'll point it out again later. If you import something from Excel, it converts into what we call a SAS data set. If you try to save this project and come back to it later, it's not going to work. Has anybody had that issue yet? I don't think so because I gave you SAS, so yeah. So I gave you SAS tables, so hopefully you wouldn't have it. But if you're importing an Excel file into a SAS data set, okay, and you save your project and then you leave, because of the way our system is set up, it breaks the link, and it doesn't know where to go back to get that Excel file again. Okay? So once you've done this, and there's actually one of these tutorials that show you how to do this, once you have your SAS data set, you can export your data and export it as a SAS data set. Now this is kind of technical stuff right now, but I promise you'll love me in about 4 weeks. Okay? And then you can put it wherever you want to, right? So you have a folder, you just kind of go back up the tree, you have a folder with your name on it, maybe you want to stick it there. Okay? And you can just have like your own little SAS data set part. Okay? So we're not going to worry about that right now because I'm going to delete this and not need it. But okay. Questions, comments about that? All right. Moving on. We have our rents. We want to, let's describe them real quick. Okay. Do you remember the minimum and the maximum on these? You'll probably figure it out. Probably like, what do we say, like 525. 525 to 715. So we already have them ordered. Okay. If I didn't have them ordered, how could I order these from largest to smallest? Yeah, I could just filter and sort. Okay. The first thing you have to do is say which variables do you want to use. Well, I want all the variables. There's only one. And then I can sort. And in this case, there's only one thing to sort by, so it's pretty easy. And then I'm going to click OK. And so what this is going to do is it will retain my original data set, but then also give me a new data set that is filtered or sorted. You can either use this for just informational purposes and go back to your original data set, or you can work off the sorted data set. Doesn't matter. So again, we've got 525 to 715. So let's start with making a histogram. So to make a histogram, we're going to describe. What do you think we should do? Summary statistics. Which seems weird, right? I could graph. But graph doesn't have a histogram. It's got a bar chart, but they're not quite the same. Okay. Oh look, there's a scatter plot right there. You only have to do that 8 thing. Okay, we're going to describe. We're going to describe, we're going to use our summary statistics. And I could do all sorts of statistics, but I'm not really interested in the statistics right now. I'm just interested in the plots. So we're first going to pick out which variable I want. So I want to talk about rent. And I'm just going to skip down here to the plots. Pretty good so far? I want to do a histogram, so I click on the histogram. And then jumping ahead, I'm going to use the midpoints. Okay? And using the midpoints, I have an option. I can either specify the number of bins, and just say, hey, I want 8 bins. Or, one of the goals we had was to actually make it look like the picture that we had. Right? So if I specify 8 bins, I'll start with that. I specify 8 bins, and I'm like, yes, this is going to look great. SAS is like, no, not really feeling it. Just because you made me do 8 bins doesn't mean that I'm actually going to spread it out. So do you think, I mean, does this graph tell you a story? I mean, definitely by most, you have the most in the 550 range.
Right.
Okay. Tapers down in the 6, but then it just kind of staying at the 700s. Okay. So is this a story you want to tell, or do you want to have it spread out? You want to have some more bins? Maybe I want to spread it out a little more. Okay. So modify task as your friend. Modify our task. Go back to plots. And instead of specifying the number of bins, I want to specify the number of midpoints. Right? And that's where we talked about we had to do the math. Okay. So I know that I want bin sizes of 25. Okay. So 525 to 550, 550 to, I guess technically 550 to 574. Okay. But if we're going to talk about midpoints, then we have to do the math. So if I go back to this slide right here, I'm going to do this just so we can keep it. Okay. So if we start out with 525 to 49, and then 550. And so I like to cheat, and I just do like the 5, like I write it down this way, and then I can count 1 backwards instead of having to count 25 up. It does the same thing. So 574, 599. We're going to go all the way down to 710 was our biggest number. Right. So we want to go 700 to 724. So we don't actually have to write them all out. We just have to have the idea behind it. Okay. So now we need the midpoint. So if we add the 2 numbers together, divide by 2, the midpoint of this section becomes 537. Are we good with that? Same thing at the bottom. If we add 700 plus 724 and divide by 2, the midpoint is 712. Okay. So the software is great. It makes pictures for us if the data is in a format that we want. If it's not in a format that we want, then we've got to make it how we want it. Okay. All right. So let's hold that. Let's go back. So now we're going to start at our first midpoint. We said was going to be 537. Our last endpoint was going to be 712, and we're going to do it by 25s. So when we run it this time, I'm going to replace it because I didn't like the way the last one went anyway. Now, do we like this picture better? Now something I don't like quite as much about this is if you look, it's kind of tiny. My x-axis, 537, it's using the midpoints. So it's not as pretty as the last one that went by the, had the nice 50s, 100s. But it gives me a much more representative picture, I feel like. So again, pros and cons. You can go and try this in Tableau and you'll get different things. You can make it, you can make it work. I think it'll actually use the rounder numbers. But it's just finding the visualization that tells the story that you want. Not that you want, but that tells the story well. Yes.
See the x-axis, like I feel like if you didn't understand how the person did it, you wouldn't really know what the ranges are for each bucket. Is there a way to fix that?
It's not a good bit, not with SAS.
No.
And so that's where we get into the SAS is a great statistical tool. It's not a great visualization tool. Okay. So this would be one of those, I would do my stuff in SAS, But then when I actually went to visualize it, to present it, I'd go into something like Tableau or Power BI or something that gives me a prettier picture.
This is more just for us to like understand this.
Yeah. So this is us saying, look, we can do all this stuff in, because we may not want to ever present a histogram, right? But I may need a histogram to find a visualization, to find an insight that then I want to go explore. Okay. So again, better, not perfect, but this still doesn't address the percent frequency problem, right? So if I went and tried, I'm going to go back to my filtered data. So I love my little project tree right here. It kind of just keeps me oriented and I can pick whichever data set I want. If you go to the very top, you can go to the process flow. You can kind of see how things are happening. Okay. But every time you see a different SAS icon, that's where you've done different data. Okay. So I'm on my filtered for apartments data set. Is everybody comfortable with that? Either data, it doesn't really matter. Either data set we can use. So now I want to do a percent frequency. So if you describe, we're going to go down to a one-way frequency. With the one-way frequency, we take our rent as our analysis variable, drag and drop. The statistics, we have options, right? So we can, and we're only going to work on this first, for us right now, this is the only pane we're going to look at. We'll look at the other panes later, we'll come back. But for now, we're just focusing here. So our options are frequencies and percentages with the cumulatives, so if we want cumulative frequencies, frequencies and cumulative frequencies and percentages, so what do we want? And question, part A asks for the frequencies and the percentages. So I'm going to click the third radio button. We have options for plots, so it would give us a bar chart. So why a bar chart and not a histogram for this one? So one time.
We will get individual items, not zones.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so when we're talking about the distribution, we're talking about the one-way frequencies, we've got categories, right? We're really talking about categorical data. Okay? So we do bar charts, not histograms. So when I try to do this, I'm going to run into a problem. Okay? You've already ran into this problem. We'll see what it is. Okay? So the results we're not going to worry about. We're just going to run this and see what happens. Here's our one-way frequency. That is not really what I was hoping for. Right? I really wanted the data that matched the histogram that we created. Huh. This is what it's doing. It's seeing each individual number as a category. And I know it seems weird to spend a lot of time on the frequency stuff, but it comes in so handy. Okay? When you're getting to know your data. So, we figured out the histogram that we like. When we figured out the histogram, we figured out some categories that we like, some bin ranges that we like. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to change this numerical variable, right here, rent, into rent categories. Okay? And this is where the query builder comes in. The query builder is going to be your friend. This is where we get our data to do things. And this is what my video that I have, you can go back and it's on the discussion board. So I'm going to go through this a little quickly because I have a video and you can step through it as slowly as you want to. Okay. So, what we're going to do, we're going to have to go back to our data, original data. Or the filtered data, it doesn't matter. Just go back to our data. And then we're going to click on the query builder. The query builder is your friend. We want all of the data, right? Generally, you're not going to want to lose data. So the first thing you want to do is just take the entire table of data and move it over here into the data side. So here's the tables that we have that are available to us. Here's the data we're going to be working with. And the thing we're going to do is we're going to click a computed column. Okay, so right here it says computed column. Over here on the right, it's a little calculator. It's the same thing. So we're going to do computed columns. And I want to take my rent column and I want to recategorize it. I want to recode that column. So it's the second button. So I'm going to recode it. I'm going to click next. And this says, hey, which variable do you want to use? Well, I want to recode rent. So I double click on rent. And then this, I hate to tell you, is a painstakingly slow process, depending on the amount of data that you have. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to first make your life easier. Instead of a numeric data, we want to change our numeric data to character data. So down here at the bottom, you're going to click it to character. That'll help reduce 18 clicks or something. So now we're going to add, and we have the option, we can replace a value, and we'll use this one later when we're going through data, and let's say that I mistyped female. I typed F-M-A-L-E, I missed the E. So I could go through, and if I find data that needs to be replaced, I could replace a value, replace F-M-L-E with F-E-M-A-L-E, right, spell it correctly. So here, when you're trying to clean up data, here's a place to do that. I could replace a range of data, right? So this is helpful for outliers. So if you have negative values, anything that's below 0, replace it with a 0. Or anything that's below 0, replace it with a missing value, assuming that negative numbers don't make sense. Okay. So there's things you can do here. We're going to play the replace the condition. Okay, so we're going to give it a condition. If it meets this requirement, then do this. Okay. So our source column, we're coming from rent. Our column name here, the operator is equal to. Well, I don't want equal to. I want between, right? So if it is between, okay. Well, if it's between what? So your start value, remember we came over here, we already had these listed. All right, so we're going to go 525 to 549. Start value is 525. End value is 549. And the question is, what are you going to replace it with? Okay. Well, I'm taking this numeric thing, and I'm going to replace it with a character variable that says 525 to 549. And then I'm going to click OK. Yay! Done one. Let's do it again. Add, replace a condition between. So now we're up to 550 to 574. Replace it with 550 to 574. So right here, it says enclose this value in quotes, and that box is checked. Okay. So for SAS, if you have something in quotes, that means it's a character variable. Okay. So if you watch my video, I tell you to click that every time. Okay. Or because we changed it to a character type down here, it is automatically checked that box for you. Okay, so that's the difference. And we just keep going. We're not going to take the time to do this because you're going to have to take the time to do it on your assignment. But if we did one more, we could replace the condition with between, and we would go 700 to 74, 700 to 74. So ideally we fill that all the way in. Yes.
Can you put a range in it of 1,000? Because that should make it go to the top.
Yes.
Make it go over.
So it won't make sense, but yes, I will. So on your assignment, right, if we add, and let's say we have this huge range, and let's say we go between, have a really expensive apartment, $1,000, and what would that be, 1,024? Okay. And you don't have to do this, you can just watch. So what you'll notice right here is these are all going nice and in order. 525, 550, 700, and I put 1,000 up here at the top. Why do you think it did that? Because it starts with a 1, right? So this is now, it's not a numeric variable anymore, it's a character variable. So as a character variable, it just uses a 1. 1 comes before 5, so that's the order I'm going to do it. So if we were to ultimately get a histogram out of this, or even the frequency distribution, we would wind up having 1,000 and then 500, right? And 700. Well, that's kind of weird, right? That's not what we want. So how can we fix that? Put a 0 in front of it, right? So now, if we have one of our variables as a 4-digit number, when we're doing this character idea, everything needs to be a 4-digit number. Okay? So that means we'll have 0, 525, 0, 550, 0, 700. It doesn't look pretty. Right? I acknowledge that. It doesn't look pretty. But it will accomplish our goal. Okay? Again, pros and cons, SAS, Tableau, Power BI. Right? SAS will get you a picture. You can do stuff with the picture. You can find insights. Just doesn't display it as pretty as you want. Yes?
If I can do this grouping in Excel and then import it to SAS, is it acceptable?
So, that is an excellent question. No. And so, who thinks with that, right? So, in your 5103 class, you learned all these wonderful Excel tricks. Okay? And one of the things that I will tell you is to use the best tool for your purpose. Right? So, this is me on my soapbox. I stand up. Use the best tool, right? So, in your daily work, use the best tool to accomplish what you need to accomplish, right? So if you're using a small data set, and you can use Excel functions to make things work, use Excel, then import it into SAS, right? Data cleaning in Excel is easier than data cleaning in SAS. Not gonna lie. But, we're gonna get you into the Dillard's database. And in the Dillard's database, it's not gonna fit in Excel. Right? So when you have this large data, once we pop over 1 million rows, Excel can't handle it anymore. So then I need you to know the techniques of SAS. So yes, when you're doing things, if you have something that works in Excel, do it in Excel. In fact, maybe it's the next assignment. One of your your choose your own adventures is to clean the data in Excel and clean the data in SAS and see if you get the same thing. Right? So using Excel is a great thing for small data sets. But I want you to learn the SAS skills. That makes sense? I know. Oh, trust me, the stuff we're going to do here in a minute, so much easier in Excel. Okay, but does this part make sense? Yes.
I can't get to 1,000.
Or no,
I might get to go below and stuff.
Yeah, I understand problem. Like
So-
putting a 0 didn't seem to do anything.
So let's see this. So when we add a 0, 0, 0. So right here, it's not going to change it. Okay, so in this list, just adding a 0 doesn't change it in this list. But, let's do two things. Let's do it. So again, you follow along, or at this point, I'm just playing, so you don't have to follow along. So first I'm going to leave it as... Okay, so we're going to leave it just how it is. What we're going to do, here you can specify a missing value. So for some reason I missed something, I didn't have all my categories. I can specify a value. I can say other. Or in this case, I'm going to say oops. Again, I'm going to enclose that in parentheses because then it's going to be a character value. We're going to click next. And here you get to rename it, right? So you don't want it to be called calculation. This, we're going to say rent range. Right, give it a new name. This is the SAS code that's happening, right? HTML, not even HTML, just programming logic. when this happens, then this happens. So you're doing almost an if-else loop. They use when, but really it's an if-else loop. Okay. We'll click next. Here's just a summary of, hey, this is what's going to happen. We'll click finish. And it's going to get mad at me. And the reason it's mad is because I didn't put in all my conditions. If I would have put in all my conditions, it wouldn't have worked.
So you're saying it's not working because there's still values outside of the sheet?
So,
I mean, it won't.
so we're going to go back to my computed columns. I'm going to edit this one. Let's see. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do this. I think what I'm going to do, so first of all, does what I'm doing make sense? Okay. We're going to put a pin in this for a minute. I'm going to do a couple of different things. Then we're going to take a break, and during the break, I'm going to fill all of this out. You guys don't need to sit here and watch me do it. And then we'll see the results. Does that sound fair? Okay, so let's put a pin in this right now. We'll come back to it. And then I'll come back and I'll finish that. Fine, thanks. Alright, so we did the histogram. We did how to make the frequency distribution, and I'll finish it out and we'll show the results from that in a second. The other thing was the stem and leaf plot, right? So the stem and leaf plot describes, we were actually already there. So we were in our distribution analysis. Have we done the distribution analysis yet? I don't remember. If we have it, hey, fun, distribution analysis. So the distribution analysis is going to say, hey, what does the data look like? Okay, right, the distribution of our data. We're still doing rent. And we're going to go down to plots, right, because that's what we want to do. You could do a histogram plot here. The catch here is you don't have as much control over it as you do with the summary statistics. You could do a box plot here. That was one of the other things you could do. And then you can do a text-based plot. This is what you got old school with SAS. Okay, this is like old school SAS output. Not old school. It's 9.1. It is the programming output within SAS. So we're going to run this. So you got your basic statistics up here. Yay. And then you get your stem and leaf plot. Right, so Courtney's question of, hey, it's going from the top or the bottom to the top instead of the top and the bottom. Nobody cares. You're good either way. You're good either way. I mean, I think we could probably go in there and code it and change it, but you have a box plot. Look how dorky that box plot looks. That's SAS 9.4 output for you right there. That's your box plot. Here, we clicked on the histogram. Okay. It did a little bit better, but still it's a different histogram. Right? Here it did give us a nicer, quote unquote, nicer box plot. So a lot of this is just clicking around, seeing what you can do, playing with stuff, having fun. It's like, maybe fun. A couple of other things I want to show you. So let's go back to the summary statistics one that we did. So we finally got the histogram where we liked it. Let's see what I did here. So up here at the top, above our modified task, you find code. Okay. And if you click on code, this is what's happening behind the scenes. Okay, this is the SAS. If you were to actually program SAS 9.4, this is what you would type. Okay, so the green stuff's comments. This proc SQL, this SQL statement, this is getting the data. Okay, so as you guys learn more and more SQL, this will make more and more sense to you. Here we've got a title, and this procedure is the proc means procedure. So as we were getting the means, the standard deviation, that's all happening right here. In fact, we requested the mean, the standard deviation, the min, the max. And the variable we used was rent. This is what's happening behind the scenes. Here, we have the summary statistics. We're doing the histogram. So there's a procedure called a univariate procedure that gives you a whole bunch of information. Okay? But right here, it has this comment on it that says no print. So it's not printing out all the information that comes with this procedure. It's just giving you the histogram. Well, if we deleted this no print piece, and if we click on delete, it's going to say, hey, this code's read-only, you can't change it. We're like, yeah, I can. So you just click yes. I scroll back down to my code, and I'm like, you know, this no print, I really want to see what happens here. I'm going to delete no print, then I'm going to run this. And now I get all sorts of information. Okay. Sample size, mean, standard deviation. Remember how we had that skewness variable? That skewness value? Here's where you can get that skewness value. We've got the kurtosis we talked about. We didn't really talk about that. We've got your quantiles, right? So your mins, your Q1s, all this stuff. It's just all right here. Your highest and lowest observations. Right? So it already kind of sorts it for you, gives you your highest and your lowest. There's just a little bit more information that you can see. Another thing we can look at let's see, have we done a box and whisker plot? We're going to have to go back and get the box and whisker plot. So if I go back to my summary statistics, I don't want to look at the code anymore, I want to look at the results. So here I have a histogram, but I didn't check box plot. So I'm going to go back and modify my task. I'm going to add in a box and whisker plot. I'm going to run that. So now I have a box and whisker plot. It's going up and down. Right, one of our goals last week was to see if we could make it look like this. And again, this is just, I'm not going to make you code things. It's just to show you what's available. So in the code, now we've added a box and whisker plot. And it says the box. So we've got a vertical box. But if we wanted to present it as a horizontal box, what do you think we could change it to? Hey, you guys get on the floor. Okay. So just kind of being able to have fun with the code if you want to. Okay. If you don't want to ever look at the code, you don't have to look at the code. But if you want to, I want you to know where it is and play with it. You can't hurt it. Right? So now we have a horizontal box. Little things. Okay. I think we've addressed everything that we needed here, right? So now feeling comfortable about going back and doing your assignment? We've got one last thing to discuss. I put Harry off for an hour. I said like 5 minutes, and it's been like an hour. So we're going to talk about the Simpsons paradox, and then we'll take a break. All right? So in your golfer question, where nobody knew what golf was, how many of you see golf on TV and just keep flipping the channel? Not Sam. I like golf. Sam loves golf. I've watched it on occasion. I understand the big principles. So what happened here, I gave you a bunch of data, and I said, hey, draw some conclusions. Okay. We talked about the fact that if you don't know golf, it's much harder to draw good conclusions. But still, you could have said something. And I'm sure since it was on a quiz, you said something. Right? You're like, well, answer the question. Okay. And Harry made a good point. He's like, so they had 100 females and 100 males, and we had 200 total, so I could have given you the raw scores of all the golfers. Okay? We could have known exactly how many fit in each category. I didn't, though. I gave you percentages. So why did I give you percentages instead of raw scores?
That's a great question.
It is. Would you have preferred the raw scores?
No.
So if I would have given you the raw scores, which one's easier to kind of get conclusions from? The percentages, right? Especially when I ask you to do it as a comparison.
Again, that's because it was the exact same number of male and female. If it was not like that, then you could have got the wrong information from it. It had exactly 100 male and 100 female.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's percentage or whether it's data, it really didn't make much difference. But
Right.
if it was 500 male and 50 females, or the other way around, then giving a percentage could completely give a wrong picture.
Oh. Agree or disagree? He's right. Okay. So that is something that we have to think about, right? So here percentages work. If we have different sample sizes, is a percentage a good thing or a bad thing? If we aggregate the data, could we get different information than if we separated the data? In this particular case, it works out, depending on what you're kind of looking at. Right? So if I look at the number of males, the percentage of males that have fine, so they're fine with the speed of the green. So what is the speed? What is the speed of the green? How fast is the ball? Yeah. It goes really fast or really slow. And under 15 is better than over 15. Golf, smaller scores are better. So you could have just used the titles and come up with a conclusion. It just may not have been as rich if you didn't know how to play golf. So is there anything that sticks out that you're just like, weird, I don't like it, I would have made different conclusions?
I think it was hard, like when we looked at like the male versus female, and there was only like 10% of the female golfers that were under 15. So then when you look at the totals, like it's like the male golfers, because it's evenly spread under and over 15. It's like when you look at the totals, it just kind of like doesn't skew it, but it does kind of like affect the over like the totals, because the female population for under 15 was so underrepresented.
So it gives you definitely a different view, right? So this is what Harry's point was, right? If we have 50-50, and I'm talking the under 15 or the 15 and over, I can be pretty comfortable with what I'm saying. But then when I have to start comparing 50% to 10% or 50% to 90%, right? And this is still with 100%. If I had 550, now my percentages are even weirder. We have weird data. Right? This is the idea of Simpson's paradox. We didn't really talk about it a lot last week. That depending on the level that you aggregate your data, and if you're looking at the raw scores or the percentages, can totally change your interpretation. Okay. Overall, I think you can get the idea that the majority of people think it's fine. I mean, that did kind of come across. Okay. But if I just look at females, you can still say the majority said it's fine. But it's drastically different between and what is drastically, right? So here, well, let's change this. What if we looked at column totals, right? So we're talking about adding up to 100%, right? So here, across the bottom and down the side, it added up to 100%. But if I just wanted to look at the rows, just wanted to look at the columns, Now data changes. So now I want my columns to add up to 100%. So now I'm saying of the people who were too fast, or who said it was too fast, and for the women, 97% of them were over 15, while only 3% of them were under 15. So really the big difference here is when we're talking about fine, more of the better golfers said it was fine for the men, and more of the less experienced or not as good golfers said it was fine for the women. Now we're looking at different percentages. What if we look at the column or the row percentages? If we look at the row percentages, doesn't answer my question. If we look at the row percentages, are we talking about the greens conditions, or are we focused more on the handicap? Focus more on the handicap. We're really not getting, I mean, we can talk about the green condition, but really since we're adding it up to 0, or adding it up to 100%, this data really answers more questions about our customers and then their opinions, as opposed to their opinions broken down by the type of customer. The data that you look at makes a difference. When to use percentages, and we're going to get into that. You're going to start having data and you're like, do I do the raw scores? Do I do a relative score? Do I do a percent? You have to think about the interpretations of what they mean. All right, questions, comments? Where are we at? Where we are is we've done a lot of stats already. Let's take a break.